Ladies and gentlemen, but mostly gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Blue. Today we're going to talk about the When Push Comes to Shove exotic review for Destiny 2 and talk about my creative process. The process for making this video was a bit different from the process for the previous two, so let's dive right in. Normally for these Behind the Blue videos, we start at the beginning of the video in question and work our way through all the different segments until we get to the end. But this time, for When Push Comes to Shove, we're going to do things a little bit different because I experienced a hiccup in my normal creative process. My flow was interrupted, but it wound up being a very good thing, and that was very fun for me. A little bit of background: I've been an artist with a capital A for a very long time. Ever since, I guess, my 11th grade year of high school, I've been doing photography all through college. I went for art and advertising design, so I did that stuff there, all types of projects and whatnot, and even out of college, still do stuff, etc., etc. I make art all the time, and even for these videos, for the Foundry favorites and my Titanfall videos, any type of video that I make on my YouTube channel, there is a creative process that I follow, an order of operations that I stick to. So for YouTube videos, it always starts with the script and developing the concept that I'm going to talk about. So for Cowboys and Guardians, for example, the concept was cowboys are awesome. We write the script and tailor it around that. Once we finish with that part, I figure out what types of visuals work with that concept. How am I going to capture something within the Destiny 2 game that fits with that concept? Then we start collecting that footage, we review it, we record the script, go through the edits, and then we review the finished video, render it, upload it, and then we put our hands in the air, have a beer, and we call it a day. Well, for this one, for When Push Comes to Shoves, things got a little bit rocky. And it had a lot to do with the script. It had almost everything to do with the script, but I'd say it was like 80% script and then 20% other things that made this one complicated. Towards the end of the video, the final cinematic section for the Graviton Lance, I noticed something was a little bit off. There was a disconnect between what I was seeing and what I was saying. So this section of the video, the script is talking about how the Graviton Lance, it's not the best feeling weapon in the game. It's a little bit weird. It's a very strong gun. It's one of the strongest that you can equip, but just something feels kind of strange about it. It's not quite right. You know, you ever put on a pair of pants that are just a little bit too tight, but you like them and they make your butt look good, but it's like, I don't know, man. I feel like I could just get a better pair of pants that are slightly more comfortable. That's what the Graviton Lance feels like to me. And I was explaining that, and in between the cinematic section, there's the initial discussion of the gun, and then cinematic section, and then I start ripping into the gun and talking about this gun is whack. It's strong, but it's trash. But the disconnect came in because the cinematic section was incredibly beautiful. So as I was editing it, once I got the segment to a place where I wanted it to be, where I felt comfortable with the transitions and the overall structure of the segment, I played it back, and I was listening to the music and watching the visuals, all the colors and explosions going by on screen, and I started to tear up a little bit, and I was like, what's going on? Who's cutting onions in here? And it was a very strange experience. And then the dialogue comes back in, and I'm talking all this shit about the gun, but I'm feeling this very deep emotional response to it, where I'm feeling this sort of raw, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe awestruck or dumbfounded, because the slow motion explosions in Destiny 2, they look so beautiful, and the Graviton Lance has a lot of them, even more so than the Polaris Lance, because we saw a lot of that slow motion in the Polaris Lance video, only it was more audio sync slow motion, but this time it's audio sync as well, but the slow motion is taken to the extreme. It's pretty much every single cut in this section is slowed down, and it looks very beautiful. And it's the equivalent of watching a 4th of July fireworks if you live in America. And I had to rewrite the script for the end of the video to really convey that sense that, wow, okay, the gun's not perfect. It's kind of ugly. It feels a little bit weird to shoot it, and it makes a really annoying sound, but Holy crap, if it's not pretty. And that was a big deal, because interrupting the creative process can be a difficult thing, especially if it's not for some sort of groundbreaking realization, right? Like if you just have to completely rework something because your files got corrupted, and you have to go in and record them again, and you don't capture the exact same footage that you had the first time, that's a bad interruption in the creative process. But realizing that you made a mistake that can be corrected just by changing a few words, that's kind of a beautiful thing to realize. And for me, it made this project a lot more fun, because initially I wasn't all that happy with the way this one was turning out, and it's due in large part to the fact that this video and the script for it is not as conceptually heavy as the previous two. It's more based around the general tone of the video than it is on really strong concepts. So what does that mean exactly? Well, in Cowboys and Guardians and the 50 Shades of Grey video, the concepts, while they were simple, they were strong, and they fed into all of the visuals and all of the music selection. Why do I keep forgetting the name? For When Push Comes to Shove, there isn't really a concept like that. This video is more of a compare and contrast between the graviton lance and the tractor cannon, and the ultimate goal is to find out which one is better, which one is going to define the generation, is the terminology I used. And if you didn't know that, you probably haven't watched the video, and you should go do that now. Yeah, that idea of compare and contrast is not as strong of a concept as Cowboys are awesome, or we're going to go exploring in this abandoned facility and find out what treasures are hidden within it. And right from the get-go, we can see that lack of a strong concept coming through, in the sense that the visuals that we're seeing are not as strongly connected to the overall grand narrative. All we're seeing in the introduction is different shots of a hangar area in the tower, which is the main hub in Destiny 2, and those shots have nothing to do with compare and contrast. Maybe I could have found a better way to do that, but honestly, I couldn't think of another way to start off this video. With the way the script went, I didn't see a different way to start off by talking about compare and contrast, so I just went with the simplest solution for me, which is just doing slow panning shots that are loosely related to the dialogue. And it's a bit unfortunate. I definitely take points off of myself for going the easy route, because I could have potentially rewritten the script into something more compare and contrast, but I liked the whole idea of every generation has scientists that define that generation, right? The Windows and Mac, that is a huge deal for the 20th century. That is everything. Everything that we have today is in some way connected to those inventions, and that's a big deal. So if we fast forward to however many years in the future the Destiny universe is supposed to be, you know, what is the invention, the creation that is saying, okay, this is the time we live in now? Is it the tractor cannon, or is it the graviton lance? So I really liked that narrative, and even though it didn't speak as much to the compare and contrast nature of the video, I liked it, and I had to work with it. So we've got a couple of nice videos. We've got a couple of nice visuals in the hangar area of the tower. We see just it's a big sweeping shot. Your eyes are going to be moving all over the place. It's fine. It's very standard. The next shot is also very standard. There's a lady working on computers. So I got this shot, and it coincides with what we're talking about in the script about back in the day. when two young men were working in their garage. One was making apples, the other was making windows. And you know, we've got the computer screens on, and your brain will connect and say, oh, he's talking about the thing that's on screen. And the same thing goes for this shot of the Traveler. As we're talking about the Traveler and bathing in his light, we see the Traveler floating above the human city. And finally, my personal favorite of the shots is this big ass Cabal cannon. I just like the composition that the developers had when designing this place. It's called Firebase Hades in the European Dead Zone area of the game. And it looks very large and ominous and threatening, and you think to yourself, what the hell is that cannon pointing at, and how do we stop it? So, you know, maybe you stop it with a graviton lance, maybe you stop it with a tractor cannon, but either way, we got to put it down. So it was a simple introduction section that overall was not nearly as powerful as the sections in the Cowboys and Guardians and 50 Shades of Grey. But next up, though, it was pretty simple, light and loose again. No heavy concepts going on here, but I did use some audio sync, and something that I always try to play with a little bit is darkness and sound effects, because it's always a little bit strange, and I suppose it takes a little bit of guts and courage to make a video that has a black screen on it. So for this section, the sound of the gun is firing in beat to the song that is going to start playing in a couple of seconds. So we set it up with darkness, and then we explode into the scene where the tractor cannon is being fired. We see some of the reload animations and just a little bit of audio sync. So it's But I think one of the hardest things you can do as somebody that makes anything is drawing that line and figuring out where the line is between making something that's boring or making a creative decision that says, okay, this is the experience I want you to have. I want you to sit with that black screen. I want you to feel that darkness and that emptiness, so that when the action does start, it's almost shocking and jarring. It's sort of pushing its way towards you, to use a pun about the tractor cannon, the gun that pushes people. So yeah, this was again, no strong concept, but the visuals are strong. We're creating a very powerful visual and audible experience for the viewer. And I think that's going to just about do it. And since we already talked about the end of the video at the beginning, we're pretty much done here. Overall, I would still give myself just about a 7 on this one, because the visuals being as powerful as they were in certain sections, or at the very least cleanly executed, it makes up for the fact that the concepts aren't as strong. You know, I think I gave myself a 7 or maybe a 7.5 on the Huckleberry video. If I didn't give myself a 7.5, I'll up it to a 7.5 now. The biggest difference between the Huckleberry video and this one, it's not execution, it's concept. The Huckleberry, the concepts were thicker, and the storytelling elements were a bit stronger. For when push comes to shove, it's just compare and contrast. No real meat and potatoes in there, but it was executed well. There weren't any bad edits. Everything, for the most part, had a purpose. So it was good. It was good. So we're going to wrap it up here, but with everything I talked about not having a strong concept, the next video, oh my goodness, the concept runs so deep. It's going to be a doozy, and it's going to be very exciting. I've been looking forward to making this next one that we're going to see on this coming Sunday, whatever the date is for it. Oh boy, it's going to be insane. So, as always, the name of the game this time, it's Destiny 2. The name of the channel is iBluairJgR. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you're doing a project of your own, how does it feel when you have to go in and change something? Do you like it when you get that new idea and this fresh take on an existing thing and say, oh man, I can go back and I can remodel this and make it better than it was before? Do you like that, or would you prefer it if things would just work the way you originally planned them? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.